This screenplay lesson is going to go over 3 things: how to create ideas for a screenplay, how a screenplay is broken down into scenes, and what a script should look like.
It's just unbelievable to me that I'm sitting in a courthouse in Portland, first of all, but that it's so close to what I want for the script, and there's all these professional people doing their thing. This is the coolest job in the world.
The truth is that the writer is one of the people who writes a movie. The cinematographer writes the movie, also in pictures. The composer writes the movie in music.
All right, we probably need to move.
Okay.
A movie is, as I always say, the screenplay is the big plain pizza, the one with tomatoes and cheese. And then the director comes and puts says, you know, it needs mushrooms. And you go, put mushrooms on it. And then the costume designer throws peppers on. And pretty soon you have a pizza with everything. And sometimes it's the greatest pizza of your life. And sometimes you think, well, that was a mistake. We should have left it with only the mushrooms.
In order to write a screenplay, you need to understand the basics of storytelling. Every story needs interesting characters and a good conflict. And that is why there are these character development sheets on Moodle. Next, what is a conflict? It's the driving force of any story. There are basically 2 types, external and internal. An example of an external conflict would be good guy versus bad guy, like every stupid action movie that's out there. An example of an internal conflict would be fighting your own personal demons to overcome an obstacle, like A Beautiful Mind. Or half the Disney movies where the shy girl is afraid to assert herself. There's a resource on the page for conflict ideas, and if you can't come up with one on your own, that's a great place to start. So once you have your characters and your conflict, there are some basic tenets of storytelling you need to understand. You start with the exposition, which is basically the background of the characters. Then the action, the rising action, will eventually lead to the conflict. And then you've got the falling action as the conflict is resolved, and then finally the resolution. And that's the part where everybody lived happily ever after. So the parts to a good story are exposition, background of the characters, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So now that you know the basics of storytelling, we can talk about the treatment. The treatment is just a synopsis of each scene in the movie. It's like an outline of the movie. So in order to create a treatment, you need to know how a scene is defined and how many scenes are in one act. So defining a scene is very easy. Every time the location changes, that's a scene. If I'm in my kitchen, then I'm in my bedroom, those are 2 different scenes. In general, one act is anywhere from 4 to 6 scenes, depending on the length of the scenes. And of course, one act needs to contain some sort of conflict. When you're writing your treatment, make sure that you format it correctly, which means you begin each scene with where and what time of day the scene takes place, and then just include 2 or 3 sentences of what's happening in the scene. In those 2 or 3 sentences, be sure to include what characters are in the scene. So now that you know the basics of storytelling, what a treatment is supposed to contain, we need to talk a little bit about formatting. There's a resource on your Moodle page that goes into great detail about one column screenplay formatting. Use this as your guide. There's also an example of an old screenplay that students did, along with an example of a treatment. But in general, a couple of things. Every scene, even in your treatment, should start out with INT or EXT, which stands for interior or exterior, and tells us if this is an outside or inside scene. Then give us the location, then the time of day. So, an example of what this would look like would be EXT, backyard, daytime. Any character who has speaking lines should be in all caps in your description, and your description is when you're laying out what the scene looks like. So your assignment this week is to create 2 characters using the character development sheet, then complete them fully and post them online. So there are things about their past, there are things about where they're born. That's to make sure that you have a complete character. So don't tell me it doesn't matter to the story, because even though you might not be using it in the story, you still need to give me that information. And these are really so you can really understand your characters and their motivations. It makes for more believable dialogue. So that's 1. 2, create a treatment for a 1-act screenplay. So remember, the first scene should be the exposition, the middle should be the conflict, and the last scene should be the resolution. Develop 1 scene from your treatment as a 1-column script. You must choose a scene with dialogue and upload to the script assignment. And I think that's it. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll be doing virtual office hours. So if you're confused by this assignment, I don't know if it'll be uploaded by today at noon, but I will be in my virtual office from noon to 1 on Monday, and then I will be in my virtual office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which basically means you can pop in and see me here. And the link is in Moodle. And I will also be in the office Wednesday at 10 a.m. So I'm around for the students during the class time in case you guys have a question. And sorry my lighting was crap. I couldn't get it, and it's like 5 in the morning. So have a great week.